Yeah. All right. And then I should be able to make it go public. Hold up. Content. Yep.
Oh, go, Barrel. The video did good, man. Our last
All
video.
right. Yeah. Welcome back to Off Ball Takes. I'm your host,
And
Christopher Wells, and this is my co host. And I should be able to.
top notch.
We appreciate all the support. And before we get started with today's video, don't forget to like and subscribe and follow us at the OBT Podcast on all of our socials for more content and updates. And we're back at it again with another video. This time, we're talking about the Western Conference NBA Cup, right? Where we had a couple of games today that were not quite as entertaining as the ones from the other night, if you can even really call it that, right? Because most of the games, honestly, have been beat downs. But we'll start off, I guess, with the first one and kind of go from there. Actually, no. Let's start off with Spurs Lakers because that was kind of the more marquee one. Yeah, so let's start off with that. So the Spurs, we ended up being wrong. The Spurs ended up winning in a blowout, 132 to 119, right, with Stephon Castle leading the way. Had a huge game, right, at 30 points, 10 rebounds, 6 assists, 3 threes. De'Aaron Fox chipped in with 20 points. Harrison Barnes, the veteran, 16 points. Luke Cornett starting in place of Wemby because we didn't really know initially whether or not Wemby was going to play, but then eventually he was listed as available, and it didn't really matter, right? Because the Spurs have been on fire, right, since Wemby's been out, right? They're basically 10-3. They've been playing great, and it's really impressive to see, right? Because they're another one of these young teams that hasn't really necessarily done a whole lot as going into the season. I was wrong about them. I picked the under on them going into the season. I thought the fit would be a little bit clunkier, and I just didn't necessarily know how good they would be even when Wemby was out because I didn't expect them to play every game. But shout out to the Spurs because they've been awesome. And like I said, even with Wemby being out, it's a different way. It's a different version because they haven't been quite as good defensively while he's been out. But offensively, they've been just scoring at will. They get out in transition. The three-point shooting from a number of these guys has been great, like the role players, Barnes, Champagnie, who's been awesome for them. Just find ways to win regardless of who they're playing. And, for the Lakers, it was another one of those losses where they've lost. All their losses have been by double digits. Haven't really been that close. Big part of that is the turnovers in these games. They turn the ball over a lot, one of the most in the league. And when they lose, it's about almost, they give up like 30 points off of turnovers to other teams whenever they lose. So, and this is one of those teams where it's kind of a tough cover because they do have some long athletes, even though they haven't really been that great on the defensive end. But for the Spurs, it's just another day in the office for them where this was kind of one of those games where it's kind of an important game. I know it's the Cup, so I know not as many people may necessarily care about it. But going into the game, their records were basically right there. I think the Spurs were a game behind, right? So now, let's say if the Lakers had won, they have the tiebreaker, at least for now, and they stay like 2 games ahead, right? Because you give a loss to the Spurs, you put a win on, but instead the Spurs win. And so now the Lakers probably will drop a little bit. I think they dropped to 4, right? Because the records and standings are a little bit weird because not everybody's played the same amount of games. But pretty bad loss for them in a way where it's piling up. Like they're still 17-7. So it's not like it's not a good team. It's just when you watch them, it's very clear that starting 5, which is funny because they got out to an early lead, but there are some real flaws with the team in terms of the defense where when they're playing certain types of teams, like it is a real problem. And it's not that they can't beat them. It's just offensively, if they're not great necessarily, like that's kind of how you slow them down. You force the turnovers, and Austin Reeves didn't really have a great game the last couple of games. He's been pretty spotty. And in fairness, his role's been tough because in the last couple of games, right, he's been the guy where it's like we want you to score 30, but we also want you to contain the other team's best offensive player. Like he's guarding Tyrese Maxey, he's guarding Fox and Castle for this game, and you have to kind of find a way to protect him. It's not that he's the worst defender in the league. It's just you can't really ask him to do both of those tasks. So that's kind of why going into the season I picked the over on them because I was higher at least as a regular season team, than some other people were. But I was always careful with putting them in the championship team conversation because I didn't feel that way because I think that they do have some issues that they can't really iron out in terms of you need to go find some guys who can play the Marcus Smart role, but somebody who could probably realistically play more consistently than he could, right? Because he had missed the last 6 games or so. And, you know, you can't really rely on him every night at this point in his career. So if you can get a guy like that at the deadline, they can be better. They can be, you know, a real threat. But with the roster as currently constructed, it's probably going to be tough to be able to win multiple playoff rounds depending on who your opponent is, because even though the game slows down and they've been really good in crunch time, it is a concern. It's tough to be able to win every night, you know, when the defense can have nights like that, even though they've won a lot of games, but a lot of them have been, you know, they've had to have a lot of wins where they kind of had to sweat it out, close it out. So they're still good. It's just, the losses, you know, kind of define sometimes like a lot of the weaknesses of the team.
Yeah, man, we learned a lot about this game, right? This is like a playoff game, in my opinion. Money on the
Have
line,
been,
very
you know, they've
important,
had to have.
right? To go to Vegas and like the cup, don't like the cup, whatever it is, this is still an important game to a lot of people, right? And so what we noticed, first thing first, the Lakers can't stop a cone. They're all cones out there, right? And like you said AR is guarding their best defenders. That's a problem. AR is not the greatest defender. We all know that. And that's just because of lack of building a constructive roster. They don't have good defenders overall, right? You're relying on Marcus Smart. Marcus Smart could do so much as possible, right? Like honestly, he's the best player on the court today. But like that's one of their major problems, right? 132 points. The Spurs got points whenever they want at will. They shot 45% from the 3-point line, 50% from the field, right? They were attacking to the free throw line. They were 29 for 36, 81% from there, right? They had 6-7 players in double digits. Their bench unit outscored the Lakers bench unit, right? Harper with 13, Keldon Johnson with 17, Champagnie with 16. You know, that's unacceptable. And then when you just look at the Lakers bench, outside of Marcus Smart, I'll give them 2 bench points, right? Like Dalton Connect hit a 3, but didn't matter.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's like you had 2 bench points outside of Marcus Smart. That's not you're not gonna win games. You're not gonna win a series. I'm sorry. Western Conference is too deep for your bench to be weak. You could look at any other team in the league in the West that you have to see, right? The Denver Nuggets, they have Bruce Browns, they have the Tim Hardaway Juniors, right? They have the Peyton Watsons, they have a bench. The Spurs, who you just lost to, they have a bench unit. They're fast, they're athletic. OKC. I mean, the list continues to go on. So that's a huge concern. I don't even know if you can really fix that even during the trade deadline. I really don't think you could. It's like, who are you going to trade? Is it going to be the Rui? Are you going to try to outside of Rui? Who? Right. You're not trading Austin Reeves. You're not doing that. No. You know what I mean? You're locking them up for the long term. So I think the Lakers are in a tough position. They're going to go what they got in Luka and AR and LeBron. And don't get me wrong, that's still a very good core. But like you said, though, ever since Braun came back, AR is like 9 for 32. His last 2 games or something like that. He shot 6 for 16, and the last game against Philly, he was 3 for 16. If my math is right, 16 plus 16 is 32, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, right. So it's like 9 for 32, and that's because his role has changed, right? Even though LeBron is trying to play like that third role, like, you know, not third guy and not like get on people's backs, he still is, and it's not doing it intentionally, but it's LeBron at the end of the day. So the Lakers have a problem. They need to fix their bench production. They have no defense, and they can't shoot the 3 ball. Marcus Smart today had 8 3-pointers, but outside of that,
and that's not normal,
right? And that's not normal, right? And it's because he had 8 3-pointers because they said, listen, if Marcus Smart's going to beat us, we'll let him beat us. Yeah. We're not going to give it to Luka. We're not going to give it AR or LeBron. Marcus Smart was wide open, literally probably all those shots. Like, he was just wide open.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? But it's good for him to hit the shots, right? Typically, sometimes players don't hit open shots. So good for him. But outside of that, right, you got Rui 2 for 3, which Rui was quiet, 8 points. He had 6 points. He had a big he had a bucket down the stretch that kind of gave him that 2 points and gave him 8 right there. Mm-hmm. But we talked about this in a video before. Should Rui start? And I'll be honest with you, I think he needs to go to that bench, put Marcus Smart in that starting lineup. We see what Marcus Smart could do defensively. If he's hitting his shots, is more important. It's not like Marcus Smart needs the ball in his hands to be effective. Rui needs the ball in his hand to be effective.
Mm-hmm.
It's really just simple as that.
He's
So
a
they got
scorer.
to change that lineup. They got to change that lineup. And I just feel like Aiton was just. Did Aiton even? I watched the game and I didn't even see Aiton down the stretch. He didn't
Yeah.
play down the stretch, right?
No, in the first half he played a decent amount, and then in the last stretch when they made the fake run, they went small. They had LeBron as the
Okay.
center. They didn't play him it late in the game. I think because I think they wanted a more switchable defensive lineup, but it didn't really matter. I mean, they were still giving up points.
Yeah, that didn't even matter because the Spurs will literally say, okay, you can go on a 10-0 run, Lakers, but we know we're going to go on a 10-0 run because we are just faster. We're more athletic. Their offense, dude. I was watching their offense. It was such a beautiful play. I think it was like 3 passes wide open. Luke
Right.
Cornett right at the under the rim. Austin Reeves got a mismatch. They just played well, and what a low key underrated signing for Luke Cornett coming to the Spurs, right? With Wemby being out, just playing his role. 10 points and 8 rebounds. So I like what the Spurs got going, right? What, they're 17-7 now.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Wemby should be back against OKC. We'll see what happened with that. But the last thing I would say is, I was getting frustrated with Keldon Johnson. I don't know. Keldon Johnson, right? He went to the free throw line. He missed all 3 free throws. And then after that, he missed like the last 3 shots. And it was like what do we like? Because I don't understand what those shots were. Those shot selections were just awful.
I mean,
I don't know if that was just me.
yeah, I mean, in the first quarter, right? I think that was, or the first half, he had like all of his points for the most part coming off the bench. The Lakers were leaving Keldon Johnson wide open, right? Because they were like, all right, we're gonna give you those shots if you hit them, whatever, and he hit all of them in the first half, right? Then in the second half, he didn't really hurt him. It was the other guys for the most part. I mean, he's an energy guy off the bench, right? And they talked about, like him wanting to use the prize money towards buying a llama, I think, right, for his ranch or something like that. So, and we've talked about how he was a former, guy on this team, right, where he at one time was like one of the team's best players in the starting lineup. And, he was one of their foundational guys. And now he's more like a six-man. Still brings the energy, gives them a ton in terms of offensive rebounding and just, a lot of, high level, high energy play. But it was kind of weird. But they didn't really need it from him. I mean, because
Yeah,
they got a lot of depth.
yeah, they didn't need it. I just think his shot selection is awful. But I also think De'Aaron Fox shot selection is awful. Now, I will give him props. He had a big 3 down the stretch because the Lakers made it to an 8-point game, and then Fox hit that 3 to put it to 11. But De'Aaron Fox, like, I'm watching him play. It's like, this dude's taking deep middies like he's Kevin Garnett. Like, bro, that's the worst shot in the game. Stop
That's his
taking a
shot.
deep. It is his shot, but it's a
Yeah.
terrible shot. It's a terrible shot.
Yeah, I
Like,
mean,
like what?
on the
I don't
season, I
know.
think the cool thing with him is his 3-point shooting has leveled up. And I don't know if it's just, it's a small sample size, so maybe it comes back down to earth, but he's been shooting 38% from 3 on 6 attempts a game. So, like, I mean, the last few seasons, he was 31%, 27, or excuse me, I think, never mind, they kind of split up the stats. So last season, he was at 31%. 2 seasons ago, he was at 32%. Then the year they made the playoffs, he was at 37% at 8 attempts a game. So if his 3-point percentage kind of creeps back up to like 37, 38, and he can still hit the mid range and get to the spots on the floor, like that's why you pay that guy the money you paid him, and he's been one of the big reasons why they've been able to stay afloat. And then we didn't even mention Dylan Harper, right? Where he's the second pick of the draft. He comes off the bench, gives them another look as a guard where he's not hurting you from the outside, but he's able to get to the rim and finish and transition, be huge on defense, get to the free throw line, get stops. I mean, he's been super impressive as a rookie where just the way he plays, he doesn't even look like a rookie. Like, and they got that guy for free basically in the draft to pair with all the other guys they have with Fox and all these other players. That's why I do kind of wonder, what do they do at the deadline? Like, what is their approach? Because people have mentioned them as a potential Giannis destination, but they could also just say, we're not going to use all of our assets to go get Giannis. Maybe we just kind of wait for someone else, or maybe we kind of get somebody else. Like, what if they go out and get like a Trey Murphy or a Herb Jones, some type of wing at the deadline, right? They could do something like that if they don't feel like they want to give up anything, or they could just do nothing. I don't know what their approach is going to be, but they they've not really been a team that historically has done stuff like that where they go all in and make huge trades. So I wouldn't expect them to go for Giannis. I would think if they were to do something, it'd be closer to one of those type of players because they certainly have the assets in terms of picks. I mean, they have some other picks from other teams, and then they have some contracts they can move. Right, like Jeremy Sohan was a DNP. Right, that was a guy that was starting for them last year and the year before. So I mean, they have a lot of pieces. This is a really good team. Like I said, I was definitely wrong about them going into the season.
Yeah, no, I agree. You know what I mean? Like, so it's a good team, good fun team. Got to give credit to their head coach, right? To,
Mitch
you
Johnson, yeah.
know, Mitch Johnson, just for like, obviously everything that this team and organization had to deal with Pop, and filling his shoes and filling that role is tough, man. That's a legend, but he did perfect, and we'll see how far this team goes later down the stretch.
Yeah, I do wonder because it feels like right now they look like a team that's probably going to stay in the top six. Like they feel like, and Wemby will be on the way. Maybe the record will change somewhat, but like this feels like almost a lock to be a top six seed because they've just been so good with and without Wemby that you just feel like that they've got a formula where they're going to be able to win a lot of regular season games. I'm just curious what it looks like as a playoff team just because we haven't seen it yet, like some of these other teams. But it just they've continued to impress me because, like I said, I believed in the Wemby leap. I just thought that it'd be a clunky fit, but it really hasn't. It's worked pretty seamlessly.
Yeah, that's facts. So, what? So, do you think the Lakers can turn this around in the sense of like making one trade? Like, can a trade help this team? And because, like, I say a trade, like, I think one person can't help this team. I think their trade assets is just too low. They don't have much to really give. So I've been hearing a lot of Herb Jones, right?
Mm-hmm.
So say if they go out there and get Herb Jones, is this team gonna go out there and beat the Nuggets or beat OKC? Like are this team just gonna be who they are at this point?
Uh, I think that would probably put them in more like the puncher's chance tier, where it's like you probably would need some stuff to go your way, right? Where like say maybe there's like an injury or just stupid stuff happens in the playoffs all the time. So I think they could be in that tier. I don't. I think OKC that would be really tough. I mean, who can really say that right now? In terms of a team that can really match up with not very many teams, but I think like could they get to the level of like the top, you know, 3, 4 outside of OKC? It's feasible. You just would need a little bit more to go your way. You need LeBron to stay healthy and continue to play at a high level, right? Because when he had a stretch where he had a couple of rough games, like you couldn't get that version of LeBron in the playoffs and be able to go far. You'd have to have something similar to what he was last year, and he's looked better the last few games. You need Austin to still be good, Luca, and then you need some defense. So I would like it if they were able to do it. It's just a matter of, like you said, what do they give up? Because ideally for them, they'd probably prefer to just move Rui to like a second unit role and then bring in somebody else. But then you don't have a lot to give up. It's expiring contracts, not really players that teams would want. Like, does a team want Maxi Kleba? Probably not. Does a team want Gabe Vincent? Probably not. And then after that, Vando's not even an expiring, so you're probably just stuck with him. And then they have their first, but they can't trade a lot of them because of the Stepien rule. I think they can only trade maybe one and then maybe like a pick swap or two. They don't have any seconds. So you'd probably, and then I forgot to mention Connect, right? But he can't be on his own because he makes very little money. So you would have to probably do that. But I don't know if they can, I don't know if that'll work. And then I don't think anybody right now is going to do a big deal with the Giannis stuff going on, right? Like nobody's giving up first, I don't think, until all the teams know for sure what's going on with Giannis. So, if they do something until the Giannis thing is solved, it will probably be small. And, if you do something small, it could make you better. I just don't know. I don't think that there's like a championship version here where they win the championship. That will probably take another summer to reconfigure the roster and figure stuff out. But could you be a team that gets to the second round conference finals if you made a good move? It's possible. You'd need some luck on your side, I think.
Yeah, I just think the Lakers are kind of stuck where they're at right now, to be honest. But I'm glad that you brought up like the OKC thing because OKC
Yeah.
today just showed you why they're just so dominant. And they're gonna go 81-1, and they're gonna make history, and they're gonna go win a championship. They're not gonna lose one playoff game. They're gonna go 16-0, and Shea's gonna have two championships, and then they're gonna come back next season, right, with a top lottery pick, getting AJ Debanza, whatever his damn name is. They're gonna get AJ because the Clippers can't win a game, right? They just can't. So now they're gonna have AJ, and now AJ is gonna turn into. He's probably gonna be a red shirt, right? They're gonna, oh, we don't need you this year. Just let's let it rock. Just get ready for the 2 years after, and he's gonna come in and be their next superstar. It's just like, dude, this is just cheating at this point, man. They remind me of the Dodgers, dude. It's just like, OKC is too good. Like, this game was, like, this is not even a game. There's nothing to discuss. Like, this was just like, yo,
It's a
I'm better
beatdown.
than you,
It's a beatdown.
and you can't do nothing about it.
Yeah.
That, like, I'm better than you, and that's it. Yo, I seen a video of Shay and J Dub after, like, there's like 12 seconds on the clock. They're sitting on the bench and they act like they just lost. They have no facial expression. They're
Mm-hmm.
just sitting there like, yo, this was boring. They're bored. They're bored. Yo, every game on the schedule, it doesn't matter if they're playing the Nuggets, they know they're gonna go out there and win.
Yeah, I mean
I mean,
that's wild. I mean, when you watch, I mean, in this game, yeah, we don't have to talk about this game too much, but yeah, they won by 50. No Devin Booker. Not that that probably would have mattered much, anyways. But
they would have
yeah.
lost by 49.
Oh, my bad. Yeah, Phoenix didn't lose by 50. It was a little bit of an improvement, but yeah. So it is wild though, just in terms of OKC, where it's gotten to the point where, like you mentioned, that's a great point where it's not just that they want to win; they want to destroy you, right? Like, I mean, they just don't let up, and it becomes very difficult. Even in games where we've seen them, like, where it's close, and you're like, "Ooh, they might actually lose." It's like, nope. SGA just hits a couple shots, game's over. Like, I think there was a game where it was against the Warriors where Steph was out, Jimmy got hurt in the first half. Then they make a comeback, and you're like, "Are the Warriors about to do this?" And then it's like, nope, SGA just hits like a step back three, gets to the line, hits a couple middies, and then the game is over. And and J Dub missed the first stretch of the season, so a lot of their young players have leveled up on both ends of the floor. Including SGA, who's not like a quote unquote young player necessarily, but he's gotten better. And just as a whole, it looks like it's just not going to end anytime soon. I mean, but it's a compliment to them in terms of how they carry themselves. Where even though they're a young team and they won the championship, it doesn't feel like that there's a real hangover. Where it's like, we've seen. I mean, nobody's gone back to back this decade, but you always kind of felt like there were a couple of teams where there was a little bit of a hangover, and it was like, oh, okay, they don't look the same, right? Like the Warriors win the championship, Draymond punches Jordan Poole, and they don't look the same, right, going into that year, right? Think so. Just in general, it's nuts, right? Even Boston last year, right? Like they were still beating teams a decent amount, but they also had a lot of games where they would just blow double digit leads, and then it carried into the playoffs when they played the Knicks. And they've been playing great basketball too. But yeah, just OKC is just far and away ahead of everybody right now. It really comes down to, will this happen in the playoffs, right? Will there be a drop off on the offensive end in the postseason where some of these guys don't look quite as good as they do in the regular season? That's probably your only chance to beat them if they're healthy, right? Like if they're healthy, that's probably your only bet, is you have to hope and pray that some of these guys don't look as leveled up in the postseason, and that's all you can really do. Because I mean, other than that, I mean, they're monsters, and it's just the fact that like they could get better. I mean, like in fairness, the Clippers, like technically in the standings, they're not that far away, just because like the bottom of the West hasn't been quite as great. But still, there's the threat of they could still miss the playoffs. And then if they do, they're automatically in that tier of they can get a top pick. Like Dallas had like a less than 1% chance, and they got the number one pick. So OKC could definitely get. I think they have the Clippers pick next season too, right? So there's
yep.
a world where the Clippers once again have a disappointing season, and then they
Which they
get the,
will.
huh?
They will.
Yeah.
They
So
will, because Harden's probably going to get up out of there. Kawhi's going to be gone. I mean, dude, they have nothing going for themselves. So OKC is going to have the next two lottery picks in the next two drafts, and they're just building for the next 10 years, and the league is cooked. So for the next 10 years, I'm 24 years old. So by on 34, maybe we can have fun because OKC is not getting any worse. Dude, how does Shea come from winning MVP to even looking better? I just, like, dude, Shea, it's just insane to me. Like, Shea's MVP. Like, you could throw in Jokic, whatever, but
Yeah.
Shea's going to win MVP
If they
once
win at this
again.
rate, he's winning it.
Yeah. Exactly. Because, and another thing too is the record, this whole record thing,
Mm.
bro, they're not going 81-1. But if
Right.
they do,
Mm-hmm.
there's no question. But if they beat the Golden State record, Shea's MVP no matter what. Even if he doesn't beat the Golden State record, he's going to be MVP. That's just how the MVP conversation is done and over with. There's no conversation no more.
Yeah.
Shea's the MVP because last year was a good conversation. Jokic had a chance, right? Giannis had a chance early in the season, of course. That was early. But then Shea, like, it was a good back and forth. This conversation's already done and over it. We already know who the champions are. I think we should just get ready for 26, 27. Nah, like, this is real stuff.
Yeah,
It's like, bro, I'm watching these other teams, and I'm just like, they can't compete with this team.
Yeah, and I think they revel, and like I said, I think they revel in the fact that like we want to destroy these teams, and that's a great mindset to have. You know, if you're going to be a real championship team, because especially like I said, coming off, you know, already winning a championship, because a lot of times after you win one, a lot of people are like, oh, you're not as hungry for the next one, but no, it does not look like it for this team, and I think that at this point, it feels like I think that they will break that record. Like even if, and like you said, they don't have to be 81-1. If they get anywhere around 70 wins or more, then like SGA I think is going to be easily MVP, if not unanimous. And it's funny because going into the season, Yarby and I both had Jokic as the MVP, and we're like, oh, it's going to be really tough, you know, for SGA to win MVP again, because the narrative, if Denver's better, you know, the narrative is going to kind of start to flip, and it's like, all right, well now Jokic is playing so well, they're like a top 2-3 seed, you know, so we really need, you know, so at that point, like Jokic, if he puts up his numbers, and he's been playing great career basketball too, but you know, with the way OKC is, yeah, it's gonna be tough. And I think if you're the Western Conference, your other hope is, so NBA.com standings right now, the Nuggets are the 2 seed. So really, honestly, if you're any other team in the West, you have to hope that Denver is not a top 3 seed, and hope that they're like 4, 5, and then they have to play OKC in the second round. Because otherwise, that means if the Nuggets are a top 3 seed, you're probably gonna have to go through both Denver and OKC to get out of the Western Conference, and that's probably gonna be really tough. In addition to whoever you'd have to play in the first round, right? Like say, like we'll take the Lakers because we're talking about them right now, or the Spurs. Let's say, because right now they're 4-5. Say they play each other in the first round. Whoever wins, wins. Then you have to play OKC. Then after you play OKC, if you even get that far, then you probably got to play Denver or Houston or whomever, right? And it's like, that's tough. That's really tough to do. You got to get a top 3 seed, I think.
So this is just a quick, right, playoff preview, right? Just say if this is the standings, right? Mm-hmm. Which honestly, I think actually would be the standing, is like, I don't think any other team makes it besides maybe Memphis. But I think these are the teams that go to the playoffs. What do you think?
The top 8?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it probably feels that way. The only question would be, you know, does Phoenix fall out? And then maybe, like you said, Memphis comes back in, but Golden State's still there. But it feels like that the 8 that you have is probably going to be what it is. Because the top 5, I think, is probably, like, I think all 5 of those teams will for sure be in. Minnesota as well. And then, like I said, the only team I'd probably have a question about is Phoenix. And then, like I said, after that, Warriors, Memphis.
Because I don't see Portland, the Jazz, Kings, Clippers, Pelicans, right? I just don't see that, right?
Right.
Maybe the Mavericks somehow, some way, if they get Kyrie Irving back. I don't know. Anyways, right? But Thunder versus Warriors, just say 1-8. Let's go through the old way they used to do it. Thunder versus Warriors. I ain't gonna lie, Warriors win 1 game. That's 4-1. Denver versus the Suns. The Denver's gonna win that in 5. Houston versus Minnesota. Now, this right here is a tough series.
Yeah.
I think Houston should be favored, but we all know how good Minnesota can be, especially with Ant-Man and Julius Randle, which they have been the last couple seasons, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then the Lakers and Spurs. The Lakers want to avoid the Spurs. I'm telling you right now, you're a Laker fan, Khristopher. You don't want to hear this. You want to avoid that team. The Lakers don't want to play anybody young. They just don't want to play. You play a team young in a 7-game series. I understand they don't have much experience, but they're out there just flying and doing whatever the hell they want and this and that. And like right now, what's the season series? 1-1. I just don't think you want that matchup in the first round because you can still win that matchup, but then go into round 2 and be like, "Yo, I'm gassed out."
It's
I think
OKC.
this, yeah, I think this happened. Yeah, exactly. Like OKC and the Suns, right?
For what?
Do you remember that year where the Suns they pushed was it Suns they pushed OKC? This is
Oh,
what OK wasn't good. They pushed one team and they got they won the series, but maybe it was the Warriors. They
you might be
won the
talking. Are you
series.
talking about when Phoenix was the 1 seed and then like New Orleans pushed them to 6th and they lost to Dallas? You talking about that series?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. You never want to have it like first round matchups are always going to be tough in the West, but you try not to because stuff like that does happen.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So but if this stays the standings how it is, bro,
Mm-hmm.
I mean 1-1-8, 2-7 will be boring, but 3-3-6 and 4-5 will be very entertaining.
Yeah. Yeah. It'll
Remember
be
that.
kind of curious to see if the standings they're gonna change just because like everybody's like a game apart. We know that the last week or so of the season is just a nightmare for everybody because everybody's looking at all right, who has to win what game, who has to lose what game in order to be one whatever seed, and it's been like it's like standings watching January, February on our podcast. We do this like every year where it's like every other week. It's like here's an update to the standings. Here's what it looks like, and it's already gonna be like that once we get to January as we get closer to the deadline. So I guess to close it out, just for the last thing. So obviously now we have the bracket for the Vegas teams. So we got Thunder Spurs in the West, then we got Magic Knicks in the East. Winner of those play December. So those games are on Saturday. Then the winners play on December 16th, and I'm pretty sure that that's a Tuesday. And so whoever wins that obviously wins the cup. So I felt like going into this, I'm like, okay, OKC's probably going to win the cup. And I think they also want to be like, let's win the cup and win the championship. And I mean, they haven't lost a game yet, other than to Portland. So Wemby could come back, and that would make it really interesting. I hope he comes back, just because I want to see the matchup, see what that looks like. With or without Wemby, I would still probably lean Oklahoma City, either way. And then in the East, Orlando Knicks. What do you think?
Orlando Knicks. I got New York winning that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, right now I'm just not really believing Paolo Banchero. No fronts. It's a big loss right there. Paolo Banchero needs to figure out his style of play right now with this team. Um, so I'm gonna roll with the Knicks. I think the Knicks are hot right now. They're playing some really good basketball.
Mm-hmm.
I got the Knicks advancing, and I mean, dude, is this even a conversation, dude?
It's
Like,
hard to bet against
okay,
OKC.
like I would never bet against OKC at this point. Would it be fun with Wemby being there? Yes. Like you're gonna see some top talent teams, but it's just like, dude, OKC's just gonna be like, all right, well, we're just gonna throw Lou Dort and Alice Caruso and J Dub and Cason Wallace, all that Wemby and Fox and
Mm-hmm.
Casso and Harper. Spurs are not a great 3-point shooting team in my opinion. Like their guards, Harper, no,
No.
Casso to me doesn't even look to shoot the damn ball. He's just like he's just a slasher.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Shot well in this
and
game,
so,
but yeah, on the season, I guess he's improved as a 3-point shooter. But his biggest part of his game is going to the basket.
yeah, and then Fox, we talked about it earlier. This dude, I don't care what his 3-point percentage says, bro. Yo, I'm letting Fox shoot the three. But it's just like, dude, they have everything. They have every answer. They have everything they can throw at you. It's like there's not one weakness that they have on their roster. Not one.
Mm,
You know what I mean? So
yeah,
Spurs. I mean OKC versus the Knicks, and that could potentially be a finals matchup.
yeah, yeah. And that's kind of the cool thing to watch is yeah, it could be a potential matchup. And it's funny because OKC was in the championship game last year. They lost to the Bucks, right? And then it's funny because I feel like people don't even remember half the matchups the last couple of years in the cup. But I think for them, I think they really want to win it. I would pick the Knicks as well. I think Paolo looked much better in the last game. The main thing is that like the Knicks now are healthier now, and I feel like full strength Knicks is probably better than the Magic. Although the Magic have played them well, you wouldn't. But I think then you have Desmond Bain. He's the X factor to me. Like if he has a huge game against the Knicks, that could probably swing it towards the Magic. But then with the Knicks, you have all these other guys that you have to worry about. They've been defending better as of late. Can their bigs guard Towns at all, or are they going to have to switch and use other players? I would lean towards the Knicks in that matchup, and then OKC I think will win, and I think they're going to win the cup.
Yep, they're gonna win the cup for the next 10 years.
Yeah. So
And
yeah.
it's it's tough, man. But yeah, let us know what's your thoughts and opinions on the cup, and are we overreacting with OKC? Because honestly, it's still 25 games in. There's still
Mm-hmm.
a lot of games left.
Yeah.
Anything can happen. But what we've seen first half of the season is they're unstoppable.
Yeah. I mean, you had the Durant Warriors. They won, two titles, and then the third time they had the injury. So you never say never in terms of like it's too much, it's unstoppable. 8 championships are on the way, but it feels like if they're fully healthy, I think it's going to be really difficult for a team to beat them. And I'm feeling, and like it's funny because my championship pick going into the season was Denver, but to be honest, the only case that I could really make was nobody's gone back to back. And if I'm going to follow that, then I almost have to pick somebody else. But I can't really make a good basketball argument for Denver being a better team than Oklahoma City. They challenged them and took them to the brink last year, but that was last year, right? If OKC's better this year, it may not matter. Although I think Denver's improved, but they have to get healthy too. I think they're probably one of Houston could, but I just it's kind of funny when you mentioned the Rockets and the Wolves, like, and they both have kind of a similar issue in terms of not having a point guard. But I just don't know offensively what they're going to look like in the playoffs versus what it's been looking like in the regular season. Whereas with Denver, I already know what they're going to look like. So I think they could give OKC a run for their money. But I'm already kind of potentially regretting my pick. But it's still 20-something games in, so it's not over by any means in terms. But like, I mean, and it's kind of funny in terms of OKC because we talked about it in a previous episode about how it all of a sudden seems like there's a bunch of people coming up to hate them. Like, I love watching Oklahoma City. So it's just when you start winning, people start hating, I guess.
Yep, that's so true.
Yeah, but either way, this one is a short one, right? Because we don't have to spend a ton of time on it. But in general, either way, we appreciate everybody stepping out and listening to this quick live stream talking about the NBA Cup. So obviously, as I already mentioned, we have the other ones coming up on Saturday and on Tuesday. So hopefully everybody tunes in and watches that. We appreciate all the support. Continue to follow us on our socials at the OBT Podcast, and don't forget to